Good afternoon and welcome to this week's Moar Guitars Workshop Diary. And sorry I didn't film one last week. I've been working. I've been grinding. It's like a sad fact that the busier I look on Instagram, probably the less intensely I'm working. And you know, to take photographs that I think are worth sharing for you guys. You know, I kind of want to take a nice guitar and set it up and get lighting out and get a camera, and then it takes a while, you know, and normally what I would do is at the end of each day I'd try and put aside maybe half an hour, maybe 45 minutes. But I've been kind of prioritizing, you know, trying to finish guitars. And so past few weeks I've actually been here every day. I've been working a few weekends and taking my boy to work with me on the weekends, and so my partner gets a break. And it's actually been hugely enjoyable. It's lovely finishing some guitars off, and but it's yeah, that's why I wasn't filming anything last week for you. Sorry about it. I did mean to, and then on Friday I said I'd do it to myself. I said I'd do it on Saturday, and then Saturday came, and then it just wasn't going to happen. But I have set aside some time to do it today. I've gotten permission to stay at the workshop a little bit later than normal. So I have a cup of English tea, PG Tips, pyramid bag, Workshop. And some questions. Well, actually, first of all, diary. What's been happening? I have been finishing, getting guitars into the final stages of their builds, and you know, applying finishing oil to guitars that have finishing oil for them. I've actually not been photographing them because they're very beautiful, but they are almost very beautiful, and I feel like it's kind of fun to unload a batch that you maybe haven't seen yet. Kind of with a bang, you know, and rather than like, this is 14 layers of oil, this is 18 layers of oil. It's like a little bit better proportionally, but it's kind of more exciting to see all in one. But a ton of questions, and I'm going to grab my phone to look at them because I don't remember all of them. So I'll pick out some of the kind of ones that stand out as being marginally more interesting. Okay, cheap, high-gain ceramic pickups from Amazon. Someone's asking what I think about them. I've actually never tried any, and I am tempted to try some. You can get some really cheap, you know, Chinese-made pickups on Amazon, and we're talking like, I don't know, like less than £10 a pickup. I think might be that plus VAT. I'm not sure, and I haven't done it. I'm intrigued to try. I think the reason is that I know how long it takes to make a pickup, even with a machine, and I know kind of the base price that these companies are paying for their parts, and they really, I mean, I don't want to say it's slave labor, but it is slave labor, making pickups at that price. And although I'm intrigued, I don't really want to support it. It doesn't really feel right. I mean, I know that the pickups would be wound by machine, of course, but you know, physically soldering it and putting it together, that's all going to be done by hand, and that takes a bit of skill. I mean, even if you do many years at a time, yeah, to make them at that price point, the staff aren't getting paid fairly. So yeah, that's why I haven't done. But I am intrigued to try it. They're probably great, actually. Well, they're probably some good ones. It's very hard to know. I'm not that into. I don't know much about ceramic pickups because I kind of avoid them. I only use Anaco because, you know, I think it sounds a bit better, and also high gain isn't really my style. It's not my thing at all, actually. But I would be intrigued to try them from a sound perspective, or I'd be intrigued to make my own version of, you know, similarly spec pickups, but you know, made by someone that, you know, gets to have toilet breaks. Anywho, my thoughts on, he's a customer of mine and a good friend, so my headstocks are straight, not angled, because yeah, so there's I have no necks to grab up. So yeah, there's kind of two. You want to angle down. If you have the nut is here, the strings have to be lower than the nut, or kind of coming out, so that there's downward force on the nut. If the strings are equal, there'll be a lot of vibration on the nut, and it'll rattle sound like a sitar, we will say. So what Fender do is they have, and I actually do the same thing. they have a plank of wood and they take material away from the headstock, but this is still one piece of wood. And then they'll have a string tree, things holding the strings down to keep and create a false angle into the nut, and that creates downward force. What Gibson does is they have a much thicker neck blank, and they remove material from the top of the headstock and the back of the neck, and then that creates this angle. Now that's not the right way of doing it. Gibson necks snap very often, and the reason is that if you have one big piece of wood and there's grain going all the way through, if you remove material from here, if you imagine there's a neck going, and you remove material from here, the grain of the neck in between, I'm using my hands, I hope you can imagine it, the grain of the wood here, is very, very short. It's very short. Because of that, neck breakage are very, very common. Headstock snap on Gibsons is, it's a thing. So then the other way of doing it is with a scarf joint, where you have, a thin plank of wood, like a normal neck blank piece of wood, and then you cut an angle into the blank, and then you attach your headstock again at a different angle, and then that basically you end up with something like this. There we go. That kind of makes a bit of sense. So that because off there, and then another piece of wood like that, and then that does the same thing where you have a glued joint. And a glued joint is much stronger than the way Gibson does it with just a thicker piece of wood. I don't do it because it's a much longer process, and I don't see the rewards for it with the string tree. And actually, I quite like how string trees feel when you're bending. There is a different feel from a guitar with a string tree on it, and I know quite a few shredders that I know much prefer guitars with string trees on. But there's something it does to the string tension. Also, you can have staggered tuners to create more of an angle, so then you don't need a string tree. And if a customer really wanted a scarf joint on their neck, I would do it. I have done them before. I don't do them as my kind of on my day-to-day builds because I don't think they're necessary, and it's just another process that there's already so many hundreds of processes that I don't want to add more. Yeah, there's no need. I know some people are really into them, but if I was putting myself a guitar, no holds barred, I wouldn't include it because I don't think they're necessary. With staggered tuners or a string tree, you can get as much downward force on the nut as you need. What else do we have? Will a two-piece body, glued up, resonate in a similar way to a one-piece body? Will there be any, noticeable difference? I don't think there'll be any difference in terms of the resonance. I could be totally wrong, but there's a pro and a con to both the two-piece and a one-piece body. The pro of a one-piece is I think it looks a bit more beautiful. But the con of one piece is that if it warps, it's more likely to kind of create quite a large warp, whereas a two-piece body is much less likely to warp to the extent of, it causing some damage to the bridge or something. One piece of wood, if it has a big curve in it, it'll be something like that. And whereas a two-piece body, if you imagine a plank here and a plank here, if they both warp a little bit, then it's not anywhere near as it won't be as disastrous. So yeah, two-piece bodies are structurally slightly sounder. Also, I wonder whether the effect of because of course the glue line is in the center of the guitar, having a glue joint going through a guitar neck pocket, whether that actually is stronger than. Yeah, it might actually be that, I'm thinking aloud here, but there might be less likelihood of splittage at the neck joint on a two-piece body than on a one-piece body, because one-piece bodies maybe are slightly more prone to splitting. But that's just a wild guess. So yeah, two-piece is slightly cheaper. My perspective, if I want to buy a one-piece Wenge blank or a two-piece Wenge blank, it's about €10 cheaper for the two-piece. Two pieces of wood that make it enough for one piece. I also kind of like with a two-piece body, you can kind of choose. There's how many options are there? Are there 4 options? So you can you have this piece of wood, or like that or like that or like that or whatever, and that's kind of fun to be able to have a little bit more say on the grain. That said, a beautiful one-piece body is really, really nice. But yeah, no resonance difference on a solid body between a 2 and a 1 piece to my ears yet. It might be that I realise in a few years' time that there's a huge difference between it. I'm doing a lot of roasted swamp ash 2-piece bodies right now, and they are crazy resonant. It'd be interesting to see whether a 1-piece roasted swamp ash body would be slightly more resonant or not. But I doubt it. They feel, it has the right type of feel for a very resonant guitar. That's a strange thing to say, but anyway, my favourite tremolo vibrato system is actually a Jazzmaster style vibrato. But I think they're great. I like how simple they are. I like how they don't weigh so much. They're very versatile. I mean, as long as you design a guitar around that trem, so not you need to have a neck a neck break angle, which Fender Jazzmasters don't, which is why they're famously they're misunderstood, and why Descendants and Mastery have these these expensive new aftermarket Jazzmaster replacement trems. They're necessary on guitars where there's no neck break angle, but if you're designing a guitar, which of course I am, and I put a neck break angle in, then just a regular old-fashioned Fender, or actually I use Goto, but Fender basically licensed Jazzmasters tremolo is fantastic. I like how resonant they are. They add some nice overtones. Yeah, I think they're super cool. I mean, Bigsby's are very, very heavy. Traditional, like a Strat trem is cool. I don't like how, in terms of construction, I don't like how limiting they are. Jazzmaster style trems work on almost any guitar. Of course, you have to put it in, but I think they're really cool. From a guitar building perspective, I think they are kind of my favourite. Bigsby's are too heavy, and I think Bigsby's are a little bit garish. I think they are. I also really like them, but most Bigsby builds, you think, oh, there's a Bigsby on that guitar. Do you know what I mean? Like it takes too much of the guitar's personality, I think, sometimes. Yeah, and then of course there are some strange ones, or strange. I think anything where you have to do too much work to install it, I'm not that interested in, or anything where you have to. Yeah, I like. If you have to put springs inside the guitar, then it's a little bit too much hard work for me. Of course, I can do it. What else do we have? Why is my workbench so high? This is kind of a good height if I'm standing up or if I'm sitting down. But I have these other workbenches and they are really high. They are if I stand up, they come to like here. And the reason is when I moved into this workshop, I had a few apprentices, and Christian, my really like a good friend of mine now. He doesn't work for me anymore. He's really tall. So when we moved in, I was dealing with this and dealing with that and fixing this and fixing that. And I said, Christian, would you mind, like, we need some tables quickly. Like, would you put some tables up? And he said, sure. Like, sure, buddy, no problem. That's how he speaks. But with a more Danish accent than that. And he just put these tables up, and they're really high. Like annoyingly high. I'm not that tall. I'm 5'10", and he's like I don't know, 6 foot something, and he's so for him it's fine, but for me, so I actually have a little platform I stand on when I'm working on those benches, but they also have great storage underneath. But yeah, so that's it's annoying. I have a bunch of desks around. I have 4 in this room, and next door I have 3 benches. I'm just on my own at the moment, so I have dedicated spaces for everything. And but yeah, a few of my benches are very, very high because of Christian, who is very, very tall. What else? This is a fun question, and that is, what is it that makes a high-end guitar high-end? And this is interesting because it is not. It's not just good materials, and it's not just time. and it's not. It's like it's a cocktail. For example, if I were to give somebody who isn't a guitar builder a really good body, a really good neck, really good tuners, really good trem systems. Let's imagine like a Strat. What's the term for like a hobby built Strat? Like a parts caster Strat. I give somebody all the best possible parts. Some of my own pickups, which are some of the best possible. And a really, really good, even a body that I've made, a neck that I've made, and let's say that, like, I make a neck and a body and pickups, and I give them to a guy, and then he tries to assemble everything and set everything up. That won't be a high end guitar, because there won't be a cohesiveness to the build, and the setup won't be that fantastic, and the final finish won't quite be there. Whereas, the same way, if I were to be, to work with very low quality, terrible wood, rubbish fret material and rubbish tuners and some Amazon ceramic high gain pickups, for example, that would also not, and I put all my love into it, that was still, that would be more of a high end guitar, I think, than a very expensive parts caster. But it's kind of a mix of where you, I think for me anyway, a high end guitar is where every single decision, every hardware choice, every wood choice, and then down to every time you touch the guitar, even from when it's a big old chunk of wood, is going in the same direction and is kind of working towards this goal of making the perfect instrument for that particular player. That for me is a high-end guitar where everything kind of comes together, and it's very, very hard to say, and it sounds a little bit like I'm kind of waffling, but where you take everything to the kind of to the next level. I am of course not the only person making high-end guitars. There's many high-end guitar builders. But yeah, I'd say it's where no compromise, or very carefully chosen compromises. Of course, there is always some compromise. I mean, I could be, when I wind the pickups, I choose the wood, I'll know how resonant and how light the wood is whilst I'm winding the pickups, and there is something there where everything kind of connects, and there's like a feel about a build where I'm kind of very much a feel guy. I do have I do of course have many rulers and I measure things a lot, but a lot of it's based on feel and on sound. Yeah, I don't know, it's very hard to say. I think also maybe high-end guitars are where the guitar builder really cares. I communicate with all my customers a lot. I think actually still, as we're filming this, there's never been a more guitars sold second-hand. I think maybe that's a sign of a high-end guitar builder, is that they stay with their owners. Yeah, I'm quite proud of that there's never been a second-hand more guitar sold. They're all their original owners, as they should be forever. What else do I have to answer? I'm going to answer one more question. When one should or should not use a hammer to make a repair? My good buddy Dave asked me that question as a joke. You should always use a hammer to repair everything. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hammers, and they all do get used. Yeah, my favourite hammer actually. Oopsie. My favourite hammer is this one. It's a Japanese kind of fretting hammer, but it's just kind of got a nice weight to it. Yeah, hammers can be useful for something. But anyway, thank you for watching this week's YouTube video diary. It's been a great week. It's been a great few weeks. A lot of work. I haven't had a day off in a while. I've been working through weekends, as I said. But it's been lots of fun. It's been very cold actually. The pipes in my workshop are frozen at the moment, so I have to go to my landlord's house for water. And that's a little bit irritating because I drink a lot of tea. But all in all, things are good. Coming to making some nice guitars, and yeah, selling. Actually, I had a few orders over the past few weeks, but it's all going in the right direction. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you found it enjoyable and educational and informative. And I will see you, hopefully, if I have the time, I'll see you next week. Thanks a lot.